Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm going to be doing another video for my occult series, and I loved the first one. I love making these types of videos. They just make me so like all around happy, and I just love making them, especially in the month that I'm making them. Today is a pretty gloomy day. We're actually having a lot of fires around and there's a lot of smoke outside and lighting really sucks, so I apologize if my lighting sucks really bad today, worse than it normally does. But anyways, today we're going to continue with the occult museum series, and we're going to be moving on to one of the hauntings. If you guys didn't watch my previous video, make sure to watch that because all the information on this series is on that video, so you guys should definitely go watch that one. And the first one was actually about the Conjuring mirror, and I thought I would follow it up with one that sounds similar, not really similar, and that is the Conjuring haunting, or the haunting of the parents. If you guys didn't watch the first one, definitely go watch the first one. I think you guys will really enjoy that one, and then you can come watch this one. For those of you who don't know, there is a movie on the Conjuring. It's called The Conjuring. So I will be kind of making some like similarities and like showing you guys and pointing out the differences and all that, so you guys can kind of see, because I feel like a lot of people that have seen the movie kind of expect that to be the real story. Whenever I see like a scary movie, I always try to do as much research as possible so that I know what really went down and how accurate the movie is. And this one was really fun to research. We had a lot of talk from one of the parents' daughters actually, who actually wrote a book on it. So it was really fun to research, and it's research, so obviously it's going to be difficult, but this was pretty fun to research. And yeah, so without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy, and let's go ahead and get straight on to the video. Conjuring haunting is one of the most famous paranormal hauntings ever. Many of you may know about the haunting through the movie The Conjuring. Of course, we all know the people behind the investigation, Ed and Lorraine Warren. They were the paranormal investigators of the time. They were in almost any horror film that you can think of, and they were really good investigators. So we're kind of going to talk about the real story of The Conjuring and what really went down there, and we're going to talk a lot about Bathsheba. And if you guys watched the movie, then you know at the end they finally revealed the name, which was Bathsheba, and she actually wasn't the only spirit in there and wasn't the only spirit messing around in the house. So I kind of want to give you guys an insight on the house, but more so on Bathsheba, because I feel like a lot of people don't really know much about her. So The Conjuring itself is often known not only as a Conjuring, but the House of Horrors, the Rhode Island Nightmare, or one of its more familiar names, the Perron House Haunting, because the family that did get haunted there was the Perron family. So before we get super into the video, I want to read you guys something. I'm going to read you guys a letter that was sent to a website dedicated to finding out the truth behind horror movies, and it goes like this. The Conjuring is based on a true story, our story. However, the film is not based on my trilogy House of Darkness, House of Light. It is instead based upon the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren. There are liabilities taken and a few discrepancies, but overall it is what it claims to be, based on a true story, believe it or not. So this letter was actually sent in by Andrea Perron, which was one of the daughters that lived in the Conjuring house, and even herself that went through this haunting and knows what really went down. Even she claims that this movie was mainly based on a true story, and for the most part is pretty accurate, which gets you thinking like, oh my god, what does this poor child go through? A lot of the times you think of scary movies like they see something move on the table in real life, but in the scary movie it flies around the room and it like crashes and it hits someone. But what we saw in The Conjuring, according to Andrea Perron, was what actually happened for the most part. So when you think about it, it's really crazy to think about that she actually went through what we see in the movie. Of course, we're never going to be able to truly understand what she went through, but we have a pretty good understanding thanks to the movie. Now we're going to get into this terrifying true story, and we're gonna tell the real tale of The Conjuring. So to start with, this is what kind of really terrifies a lot of people. In the movie, the parents left the house right after the haunting, and they just didn't want anything to do with it, and they left. Very lucky of them. They got to leave the house and leave all these bad memories behind and all the bad stuff that had happened. But sadly, in reality, the parents actually had to stay in the house for 10 more years because of financial restraints. They had a contract and they could not leave the house. They could not afford to just buy another house while they were still paying this one. So they actually had to stay in that house for 10 years and endure the haunting. So the parents' house was a 200-acre property. So they moved in 1970 and didn't move out until June of 1980. So pretty much all of the family members noticed that there was weird things going on in the house from day one, from the day that they moved into the house. And there were a lot of spirits in that house, which we'll get into later on in the video. But there was one that obviously did the worst harm possible, and the worst spirit and the most evil, and that is the spirit of Bathsheba. She was a truly terrifying entity, and she was the one that was actually causing the harm to the Perrin family. And it's really terrifying, the history of what this family had to go through. So we're going to talk about Bathsheba for a while because there is a lot of backstory on her, but it is all important things. I'm not going to throw a bunch of facts to you guys that you guys don't need. So her name was Bathsheba Sherman, and she acquired the name Sherman after she married her husband. His name was Judson Sherman, and there is not much on him, so I'm not going to go into too much detail with him. Her single name was actually Bathsheba Thaler, and that is what she went by before she got married to Judson. And Bathsheba and Judson actually had one recorded son. His name was Herbert L. Sherman, and Bathsheba reportedly had him when she was 37 years old. She might have had 3 other children, but there's no record of them. Obviously, this was a while ago, so it's possible that the records got lost or they were just never made. But the legend goes that they actually all died before reaching the age of 7, and a lot of people claim that this is pretty accurate and that this actually happened. And there's actually only one possible picture of Bathsheba. Nobody really knows if it's real or not, but I'll insert it for you guys to see, and that is said to be Bathsheba. In the picture, I'll circle her if I can or something, so you guys can kind of see where she is. So Bathsheba didn't actually live in the house where the hauntings took place. She actually lived right next door, but we'll kind of get into detail as to why she might have been the one haunting them if she wasn't the one living there. And in the picture, she was wearing a surgical mask, but this could have been for a lot of reasons. There was an influenza going around at the time, and it was a really bad era to live in. There was a lot of sickness, so that could have been why she was wearing the surgical mask. It didn't necessarily have to be because she was a witch or something like that, which is what a lot of people think, but it just makes the picture all the more creepier. So was Bathsheba really a witch is the question that a lot of people ask, because there's kind of not a lot of evidence. Obviously there isn't much people or there isn't any people that lived in that era that can actually tell us if she was, but a couple incidents did happen that led people to believe that she was a witch. So it all started when a baby died in Bathsheba's care, and this baby passed and was later examined, and when he was examined, they found that there was a little dot in the back of the head that was later said, right on the skull actually, that was later said to be as if he was punctured with a large sewing needle. Sewing needle is a really important part of the story, so make sure you guys kind of grasp that. And the townspeople actually believed that she was trying to sacrifice that baby to, you know, pay homage to the devil. She actually went to court and she was ruled innocent because there was not enough evidence to prove that she was a witch or that she had anything to do with satanic rituals or anything like that. However, the townspeople didn't buy it. They didn't like her, and they kind of always thought Bathsheba was a witch. So Bathsheba passed away as an old woman. She passed away May 25th, 1885, and this was roughly 4 years after her husband had actually passed away. Judson actually passed away 1881. There is actually an unofficial family tree that actually claims to have the names of her other 3 children, which were Julia, Edward, and George, which when I read, I had to do a lot of research on, and it's apparently a pretty well-known family tree because a lot of people think those were the actual children. My name is Julia, and I'm not Bathsheba's daughter, I promise you. We're gonna move on to the family again, the parent family. Now you guys have a better understanding of who Bathsheba was, and you guys could probably piece together some things and make some theories for yourself. I don't know. So Carolyn, the mother that moved into the haunted home, actually told Ed and Lorraine that she was laying down or taking a nap on the sofa one day when she felt a kind of piercing pain on her calf, and it was all blooded and all that. And her daughter Andrea Perrin and Carolyn both say that it was as if she had been pricked with a large sewing needle, which was why I was saying that you guys have to remember it, because this apparently happened on multiple occasions. And Lorraine Warren even said that she thought that Bathsheba had actually taken the sewing needle to the afterlife with her, and this is why she was causing harm to Carolyn with it. The house is actually still standing in Rhode Island, in Harrisville. So, as I was explaining before, there was actually a lot more spirits in there. It wasn't just Bathsheba, but those spirits weren't really causing any harm to the family. And there was actually 8 generations of the same family that died in that home and lived in that home before the parents even moved in. And this was the Arnold family. So there's actually a book on the house, and someone wrote that's full of apparently accurate information, and I'll read you guys some of the deaths that occurred in the house. These are only some of them, the smallest portions, but there was apparently a lot more deaths that occurred in that house. There were 2 suicides by hanging, 1 suicide by poison, and there was the rape and murder of Prudence Arnold, who at the time was only 11 years old, 2 drownings, and 4 men who froze to death, and all of this happened on that property. So most of the recorded deaths on that property were of the Arnold family, and it is believed that Bathsheba was actually an Arnold, and in fact she was. This is pretty accurate. I'm not sure how she was related to them, but apparently she was an Arnold. So of the deaths that I just mentioned, the ones that died that were Arnolds, obviously Bathsheba being one of them, was Joan, Harmony, Johnny, and Prudence Arnold. They were all part of the Arnold family, and obviously there were more. The reason that the Perrin family still moved in with all of this information was because they actually didn't get the information, because in Rhode Island it actually isn't a requirement for the seller to tell you any information about supernatural presence, paranormal events, or even deaths. They don't it's law. They don't require it for the seller to have to tell people what happened in that house. So they didn't really know what they were getting themselves into, if you will. Annabelle is very popular in The Conjuring, and a lot of people want to know if she's actually in it. And in fact, I believe she was. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the doll that did appear in The Conjuring, the Raggedy Ann doll, and her name was Annabelle, is actually a real doll, and I will get into her in another video because there will be a video on Annabelle soon. But it was truly a house of horrors, as you guys can tell by all the names I mentioned. So many people lost their lives in that house, and Bathsheba was among the most terrifying, the most evil of ghosts that could ever have occupied their house. I didn't give too much information in this video, but I'm pretty sure just by you guys watching this video, you know just how terrifying it might have been to live in that house. I thought The Conjuring was a really interesting topic, and I loved researching it. I really did. And what I found more interesting was Bathsheba's kind of background story. Do I think she's a witch? Maybe. I'm at a 60-40 right now. Probably more. Maybe an 80-20 that she is or isn't a witch. Just because there isn't a lot of evidence, but again, she did lose quite a lot of children, and obviously the needle is what really got me. But yes, Bathsheba was one of the most terrifying ghosts in there, and probably the only spirit that did any harm to the parents' family. And I actually didn't write down this information because it was so interesting that I just didn't want to write it down. I just wanted to read the whole article. But a lot of the people that have lived in that house after the parents have said that they have also experienced things. And the family that is currently living in there actually denies that any of this is happening. But based on 2.5 articles that I read, the family that was actually denying it had a priest in there, so a lot of people speculate that the priest maybe did not want to admit that these kind of things were going on. Also, for money, they actually sold a big portion of the farm. The parents actually sold a big portion, and it is now only 8.5 acres of property, and that's the way it is listed, and you can still buy the house. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I am sorry that there wasn't a lot of information for you guys in this video, and if you guys noticed that I didn't seem too up to it or that I seemed tired, I just had a really rough day today, and it's not anything like serious, like I'm depressed. I just had a tiring day today, so I'm sorry if I didn't seem up to it, or if the video wasn't as enthusiastic or interesting as the last. But I still really do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Oh, let me do it. Here, or here, because I don't know where you're watching. I really miss doing that. Also, thumbs up this video. And again, let me know in the comments if you guys want to see any Halloween themed videos, because I will do them if I see a really good idea, because obviously I will be busy with the Occult series. But yes, again, check out the Conjuring mirror video if you guys haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for watching, and bye. Yay! It wasn't that bad. I think my camera was just dirty. This whole time I thought my room was super froggy. I love making these Today, catch your breath. Come on, girl. Today is a pretty gloomy day. We're actually having, look at the camera. It gets real here. And the sewing needle is a really important part of the Bathsheba's gonna get ya. Why did I say that?